Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This day in sports history. It's March 4th, and on this day in 1990, basketball player Hank Gathers collapsed on the court. It was the semifinals of the West Coast Conference Tournament. Gathers' 21st ranked and top-seeded Loyola Marymount Lions were hosting the number 4 seed Portland, with under 14 minutes to play in the first half. Terrell Lowry lobbed an alley-oop pass to Gathers, who grabbed it and dunked it to give the Lions a 12-point lead. Heading back up court, Gathers paused at the top of the key, getting ready to defend, turned, and then collapsed on the court. Among the 3,000 at the game that day were Gathers' mom and aunt. Gathers wasn't breathing when doctors got to him on the floor. Immediate attempts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he was pronounced dead 2 hours later. Gathers was most certainly on a track to the NBA. A year earlier, he had led the nation in scoring and rebounds, becoming just the second player in NCAA history to do that. This season, it was his teammate and good friend Bo Kimball who was leading the country in scoring. Loyola Marymount played a highly energetic style of up-tempo basketball. Coached by former LA Lakers coach Paul Westhead, the Lions had scored at least 100 points in 25 games that year. The Lakers coach at the time, Pat Riley, had welcomed Gathers to practice, and Gathers actually had plans to catch the Lakers Timberwolves game later that night. Now, this was not the first time that Gathers had collapsed on the court that season. On December 9th, in a game against UC Santa Barbara, he collapsed prior to shooting a free throw. He was diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat and then given medicine to treat it. He sat out the next 2 games, but complained that the medicine was impacting his activity on the court, and the dosage was dialed back gradually. Prior to the tournament, his dosage had been dialed back again. Following the death of Gathers, the remainder of the conference tournament was canceled, and LMU was given the automatic NCAA tournament bid due to being the top seed in the West Coast Conference Tournament. Marymount went on an inspired run in the tournament, advancing to the Elite Eight before losing to the eventual national champions UNLV. And as a touching tribute to his friend, Kimball shot his first free throw of every tournament game left-handed in memory of the left-handed Gathers and what happened to him on this day in 1990. Also on this day, in 2004, a rare trade in the NFL sent running back Clinton Portis from Denver to Washington. The Broncos got defensive back Champ Bailey and a second-round pick. Portis was one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best at this point, and apparently it was one of his great performances that put the wheels of this trade in motion. On December 7th of 2003, the Broncos played the Kansas City Chiefs, led by their running back, Priest Holmes. Portis was motivated to outduel Holmes that day, and he did. After scoring 5 touchdowns and rushing for 218 yards, Portis pulled out a wrestling-style gold championship belt that he had stashed prior to the start of the second half, declaring him the best running back in the league. That celebration did not sit well with Broncos head coach Mike Shanahan or the Broncos front office. The next day, they started shopping Portis around the league to interested parties. Washington was not interested in re-signing Bailey, and the deal was signed in February prior to the Pro Bowl, but was not announced until this day in 2004. Now, who got the better end of the deal? Well, they both came out pretty well, but you could probably lean towards the Broncos because, in addition to Bailey, the second-round pick the Broncos got turned out to be Tatum Bell. Bailey was a Pro Bowler 8 times with 34 picks for the Broncos. Portis spent 7 years in Washington. His best year statistically was 2005, when he rushed for 1,732 yards and 11 touchdowns after adjusting to head coach Joe Gibbs' style and a little adjustment on Gibbs' part to shape more of the play calls around Portis's running style. And in 1891, Baseball Hall of Famer Dazzy Vance was born. Oh, what's that? You've never heard of Dazzy Vance? Well, he's a guy you should keep in mind if you ever feel like life has dealt you a bad hand. His story of perseverance in pursuit of his dream is an inspiration to anybody who's ever thought of giving up when the going got rough. Vance spent 10 years in the minor leagues, injured his arm so badly during that time that the doctor who treated him told him to take 2 years off without throwing. He did not listen to that advice. He kept on pitching, and he finally got his chance with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1922 at the age of 31. He picked up his first win in April and went on to win 196 more for the next 15 years. And he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1955. And finally, here's today's non-sports Did You Know? Apples that you buy at the supermarket can be up to a year old. Not saying all of them are, but some could be. That's all for today. More tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.